Hello, I'm Morgan Pehme, Editor-in-Chief of City and State, and this is Last Look. Today our guest is Kathy Wylde, President and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
In your opinion, what are the greatest economic challenges the next mayor will face?
Well, clearly trying to keep the momentum of growth going, maintaining New York's stature as the #1 great world city, economic capital of the country and the world, keeping the innovation economy going, attracting startups in the whole technology area. So it's really keeping growing, keeping creating jobs, and then trying to make sure that New Yorkers are equipped for those jobs and tackling our education issues and workforce development issues so that in fact we have the greatest workforce and the jobs that we're creating are going to New Yorkers.
Some of the candidates and some of commentators about this election have argued that if we make the wrong choice, the economy could come unraveled and we could really go south quickly. Is that a possibility, or is the kind of economic vitality of the city in a sense baked into the cake?
Pre-Bloomberg, we've never looked to the mayor to drive the local economy. We have relied on our strong industry leaders to really keep our economy going. And so long as there is a decent city and state economic and tax climate, for the private sector will take care of being the engine of the economy. And what's important is we have a mayor that wants to see that activity going, is smart enough to recognize how important it is. Bloomberg was an exception. He was the first businessman mayor in 100 years. He understood and had a clear vision, and he was the ideal mayor during this 21st century, first decade of the 21st century, the transition from the old economy to the new economy. He had a vision of what it was going to take to really infuse technology into our economic infrastructure, and he accomplished that. But I think he was the exception. We don't look to mayors to create an economy. We look to business to do that.
Is there a consensus among the members of the partnership, which candidate would be the best to lead us forward?
I think it's safe to say no. The partnership is a pretty diverse group. Democrats, Republicans, entrepreneurs, investors, corporate types. I think that they have anxiety separation with the loss of Mayor Bloomberg. There's no doubt about that, because that was somebody who talked their language and they understood where he was taking the city and they felt comfortable with that. And so any successor is going to be an adjustment for the business community, but I think that they're prepared to work with whomever is the next mayor.
In my cover story, this issue, I asked you about what you thought about Bill de Blasio and his relationship to the business community was, and you seem to think that he wouldn't be a threat to the business community. Is that correct?
I think any mayor that wants to be a success is going to look to have a relationship with the business community and trying to make that productive. Bill de Blasio is a smart guy, so I think he would fall in that category, and I think the same is true of the other candidates.
What about Joe Lhota and John Catsimatidis? John Catsimatidis is certainly a businessman like Michael Bloomberg. I mean, do you think that makes him particularly well suited to understand the necessities and the problems that have to be tackled by the mayor?
I think that the understanding of the economy and business is what we were talking about, and that's very important. And I think that obviously John Catsimatidis has built a great business and has a very good understanding of what's going on in the economy. I think those are not necessarily the same qualities that you're looking for in a mayor.
Right. And in terms of the city council, how focused are you on the city council elections? Obviously, we've been so focused on the chief executive, but certainly the city council will have a great impact upon the business dealings of the city.
Well, the city council has a lot of power with regard to two things. One is real estate and continued development activity, and the other, of course, is the general business climate. And they can't do a lot in terms of game-changing activities, but they can be annoying. So we care about who's in the city council, who's leading the city council. I don't think the business community at this point has much to say about it. A combination of term limits, campaign finance reform, limitations on what business can really do in terms of contributing. Not very engaged in the city council races outside the real estate industry. But what we're trying to do at the partnership is make sure that particularly neighborhood-based businesses have a voice at the table. And that's the one group that the candidates have paid a lot of attention to in the campaign process. They've talked a good game about small business, neighborhood retail. So I'm hoping that we can give that sector, working with the borough chambers of commerce, the ethnic chambers of commerce, give that sector more of a voice. We've organized something called Go Biz at the partnership, set up a website, have membership that is over 20,000 now, small businesses from the 51 councilmanic districts. We're hoping to help staff them, support them to be a voice in going forward. And I think though they have a unique impact on council members, and that can make a difference.
So you talked about helping small business and neighborhood businesses. What are the other key issues and areas that you're focused on?
Well, we are focused, as I mentioned before, education and workforce development, because we think both from the standpoint of the city's economic future, from dealing with the economic inequality issues that have been a focus of this campaign, that education and good workforce development programs are the key to that. In workforce development, we spend $1 billion a year in this city of public money on workforce development, and we certainly don't get the returns from that in terms of people really being prepared for the jobs of the future. Over the next 7 years, we're going to have a 21% increase in the jobs in New York City that require an associate's degree or better. That means that we really have to push to move people through the education system. We just got test scores back that show only 29% of the kids graduating from high school in New York City are career and college ready. We've got to fix that.
And Bill de Blasio, you said when I interviewed for my cover story that he's actually adopted the most recommendations of the jobs blueprint. What are the recommendations that he has taken to his campaign strategy?
Well, we had a series of recommendations about education and workforce development, about infrastructure and investing in universal broadband and those kind of things, also about focusing on the export economy. And really all the candidates have been very responsive to the jobs blueprint, and I think they're looking for business to give ideas. How do we grow the economy? One of our surprising discoveries was over the last decade, we really haven't increased at all the number of businesses with more than 5 employees. So we've had lots of startups, but businesses are not scaling here in the same levels as they are in Silicon Valley or even in Austin, Texas. We have to be a city where businesses can scale. That's the way we create jobs. That's the way we really fuel the next generation of our economy. That's what we're going to be pushing and working with the next mayor to hopefully accomplish.
Kathy Wylde, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Morgan.
And that's it for this episode of Last Look. For more episodes, please visit us on the web at www.cityandstateny.com.